Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're watching from in the world. So, first of all, as the banner says, I just want to say thank you, as usual, to all of you who watch my videos, all my subscribers, all my chatterati, and a very, very special thanks, of course, to my members. And remember, if you please consider joining, because we do a special members live twice a week on a Tuesday and Thursday, which is exclusively for members to chat in. So if you enjoy my channel and you like to chat, maybe you'll consider becoming a member. Also, I want to thank all of you that have bought me Ko-fis, sent me super chats, or PayPal'd me, or sent me an email, left a nice comment, supported my channel in any way, shape or form. Thank you so much. Okay, so in today's video, we're going to talk about a case that is very, very close to my heart, and I think all of us, because we covered this case of Rachel Morin right from the beginning, didn't we? As soon as Rachel unfortunately even went missing, and which was only for one day. Yeah, from the very first day Rachel went missing, which is more or less almost exactly a year ago. Rachel went missing on the 6th of August 2023. She'd set off in the sort of early evening time to go for a walk on the Mar and Pa Trail in Maryland. And nearby where she lived, where she'd always walked ever since she was a child with her mother, she'd always walked this trail. It's a very popular family trail, and she had no reason to think or to know that that day evil was waiting around the corner for Rachel Morin, unfortunately. So she did not return from her walk, and she was reported missing by her partner at the time. And people searched for her in the park, and she was unfortunately found deceased the next day in like a tunnel in the sort of bit off the beaten track. Now, I will put my playlist in the description box of this video, because if you don't know anything about this case, I'm not going to go into the whole case in this video. This is a video to remember Rachel a year on, and we must never forget these victims. Never, ever forget. Although a year's passed, and finally, not that long ago, justice finally looks like it's going to come for Rachel's and her family, because the person who killed her eluded police for almost a year. It was very recently caught. Victor, well, do you know what? I'm not even going to talk about him in this video, because this video is all about Rachel and remembering Rachel. We don't forget Rachel's name. We won't forget what happened to her. And he's got his court case coming up, and he will, just as likely get the death penalty, maybe even. Though, no, they don't have death penalty. That's right. They don't have death penalty in Maryland, but the sheriff, the local sheriff there, has said he wants him to go into a facility there and be there for the rest of his life. He wants to know where that man is, every night, I expect, because he's got daughters as well, Sheriff Jeff. Anyway, so what this video really is about is the memory of Rachel. I don't want to go into the murder or talk about, as I say, the perpetrator. I want to talk about how Rachel's family and friends marked this very sad anniversary. So we're going to look at some news videos talking about how Rachel was remembered. There was a walk on the actual trail. People walked the actual trail that Rachel walked that very, very sad, fateful day.
On Paw Trail in Harford County. Today, on the anniversary of her death, dozens of people gathered on that same trail to honor her. WMAR. 1 year ago, Rachel Morin's body was found on the Mon Paw Trail in Harford County. Today, on the anniversary of her death, dozens of people gathered on that same trail to honor her. WMAR 2 News' Janae Wright is live in Harford County with the latest. Janae.
People say they still feel the same exact emotions they felt the day that they found out about Rachel Morin's death, the anniversary of her death, bringing back.
Yeah, how awful for the community as well. You know, this is the ripples that these things, because obviously devastating for Rachel's family. Rachel's the mother of 5 children who lived with her, most of them. So they've all had to split up because they had different fathers. So the momentous impact that it just had on them, apart from just losing their mum, but their whole life being uprooted. And then, of course, Rachel's mom, sisters, etc. Anyone who knew Rachel will have been devastated by this occurrence. But even then, wider than that, the community, you know, this guy, it took 10 months to catch him. So, you know, the community will always have been terrified. Now, there's a lot to come out about why he was there, because it's not thought that you know, he'd committed a crime right over the other side of America in Los Angeles. So he traveled a long way to commit this crime. There's a lot of things to come out about him. That'll be for another video. But yeah, the community were terrified of going walking after that, even not only with, you know, with other people. Either alone or with other people. It's a terrifying situation, whether you knew Rachel or not. It affects even us. We're miles away from there, but it affects us because we go for walks. You know, any woman who goes for walks on their own, you know, even on popular trails that are supposed to be safe, you know, it had a devastating effect on so many people. And now they are addressing it at this particular trail. We'll see that in one of the videos. There's been, you know, too late for Rachel, obviously, but there's CCTV, you know, been put everywhere, basically. So if anybody ever did anything like this again, there is not a place there where they would not be seen.
Many of those emotions. And Rachel's family told me off camera that they are grateful for the continued support from neighbors and local law enforcement. Just hours ago, dozens of people were walking the Ma and Pa Trail, the same path Rachel Morin took the day she was murdered. Along the path, signs about.
It's so beautiful, isn't it? It is so beautiful. You can see why Rachel would like to go walking there. You can see, you know, how dare these people, how dare these absolute twonks take that away from people, take the freedom to walk on those, you know, in those beautiful places, make people scared, you know, use it to their sort of devilish advantage, and instead of letting people just live their lives, go for walks in beautiful places like that. Makes me so angry, I can't even tell you.
The arrest and photos of Rachel Morin at different stages.
So this is Rachel's mum, and people had put up different photos of her at different stages. She certainly seems like a character
of her life, from childhood and teen years to her as an adult. Rachel's mom stopping at each photo, sharing memories of Rachel. Friends of Morin also shared stories of her and strangers.
There she goes, calling her Morin again. Do you know, when will these mainstream media journalists learn a bit of respect? Her name is Rachel, not Morin. That's not her. Absolutely bonkers, the lack of respect shown to victims.
Offered kind words to the family.
Seeing that level of support, they deserve that, and it's just really authentic. It was really authentic, and the people were, they did some songs on the trail, and it was just very, very genuine, heartfelt folks talking to the Morin family. I thought it was a very nice way to show our support and remember Rachel.
Earlier this week, Harford County Police sent out a clear message to anyone using the Ma and Pa Trail now. You can't hide. If you are anywhere in a 2-mile span of the trail from the Tollgate Road station to Williams Street, cameras will be recording. Community members tell us they don't mind the extra set of eyes.
To see that people did not feel comfortable using it, even during the day.
Oh God, I wouldn't mind it, would you? But I would just feel so much better knowing all that was around. It's a shame that it has to be like that, but that would definitely make you feel better.
Time, even with other people walking the trail with them, was very discouraging. So now that the cameras are up, we've noticed a lot more people frequenting the trail.
The cameras use artificial intelligence to quickly identify unusual activity. If a person moves too quickly, is approached by someone else, or falls or disappears from the trail, it triggers an alert to police and allows operators to pull up their every action. But police hope it doesn't come to that, with the cameras working as a deterrent, stopping crimes before they're committed.
The county executive has not included us at all.
Harford County Sheriff there, Jeffrey Gaylor, claiming Harford County Executive Bob Castley left his office out of discussions surrounding the planning, the placement, and implementation of new security cameras along the Monpaw Trail. Gaylor also expressing concerns that his deputies do not have a way to access the video in real time. Well, the cameras come nearly a year after the tragic murder of Rachel Morin along that trail. This morning, Executive Castley is joining us live to weigh in on the back and forth there surrounding this new security measure that's really meant to ease residents' fears. Yeah. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
It's good to be here. Good to see you on this beautiful Friday morning.
Let's start at the very beginning.
Sure.
Was the Sheriff's Department part of this decision?
So let me take you back a little bit, because I'm from Harford County. I grew up in Harford County, and it really distresses me to see this kind of attack. Constant politicization of the sheriff's office. I've known every sheriff probably over the last 50 years, and every one of them went out of their way, like judges do, to stay out of politics. And unlike those, this sheriff, unlike all the predecessors, fully has embraced hyper-politicization of his office. And that's
Yeah, now my sheriff, I don't know if he is my sheriff anymore, because he seems to be making this a political issue, if you like, in many ways, because the person who murdered Rachel is an immigrant, an illegal immigrant, and he has made some political, Sheriff Jeff has made political capital of that. And I know for a fact that even, family of Rachel and Rachel's, they're not happy with that. They don't want Rachel being politicized. They want her name being remembered as a woman who was tragically murdered. They don't want it used politically, for people scoring points politically. So I know he's not very popular for that. And now it looks like what this guy is saying is a similar thing. I mean, should the police be political? They're not supposed to be, are they? Because at the end of the day, the police are there to police everyone in their remit, no matter what their political persuasion is, no matter what their race is, no matter what their ethnicity is. Police are supposed to be impartial in that sense. So I'm sort of going off Sheriff Jeff a little bit.
That's distressing. He's even gone so far as he's got in his front office a professional political attack dog from Anne Arundel County. And that's where the messaging is coming from. We don't get, hey, we have a problem. Hey, can we call you? We have an issue. What we get is press releases saying, oh, we hate everything you did. So that's unfortunate. And we've got to move beyond that.
Looking at this recent issue, though,
yes,
was there a conversation about the security cameras?
Let's move on. So you have, they came off with their story, which you all led with, about that they the cameras were inoperable. And we showed you all a demonstration earlier in the week that showed that, in fact, the cameras were all fully inoperable. Mm-hmm. They never addressed that to us. They never said, hey, maybe the cameras aren't operable. Let's help you out. No,
have
there was
you
an attack.
talked with Sheriff Gaylor? Have you had any discussions with him one-on-one?
Oh, yeah, we talk. The next attack was that they have no access to the cameras and they're not functional. And then we showed you all that was completely untrue, that in fact the two incidents that related to the cameras, they had the access was there. We were able to effectively utilize the cameras. And now they're coming on, now the sheriff's saying, well, I wasn't involved in the process. But the process he deliberately and intentionally removed himself from all communication at my level. A year and a half ago, he was angry. A month into my administration, the sheriff pulled his office, all of his office, out of the 3 key coordinating groups that we've got at the executive level, and he stood back, and he's refused.
Whether that happened or not,
go in with that, but he refused.
How do you work together moving forward? You know, if these security cameras are up and running, obviously police are going to have some part in this. Are they able to use it? Do they know how?
Well, that's a shame, isn't it? I mean, I hadn't seen this. This just flowed on from the net. But this makes me a bit angry. So we've got this guy and Sheriff Jeff arguing between themselves. You know, how helpful is that? Not helpful at all. Just get on with it and protect your citizens together.
How to use it? Is there training for that?
So I can assure you that 99% of our interactions with the sheriff's office are between his excellent deputies and my excellent emergency services folks. And we've got 20 or so people every day, every hour, every minute of the day, backing up an incredibly loyal set of deputies on the street. We're functioning very well at that level, which is really where it really matters.
Have people been trained to use them then? I think that was one of the other things he mentioned is that his officers and even the dispatch hadn't been trained on it.
Sure, our dispatch has been trained.
Okay, so they're ready and prepared.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So, but the challenge we've had is there's no effort here.
You know, all this argument, if Sheriff Jeff was saying those things, I mean, he's right, but he's now doing it. What he's saying here now, they should be saying this between themselves, not having a public debate, a public argument on the media about, you know, who's right or who's wrong or whatever. This is really, really childish, I think, of both of them, to be honest. You know, you should be talking to each other. Shouldn't be talking to a news reporter about it. Should be talk to each other first, iron out if there's difficulties with the scheme, because this now is taking away the confidence of people to think that it actually works.
To collaborate, everything is an attack. It's an attack, and that's all stems back.
So how do you move forward if that is true?
Because
as the executive, you've got to make sure that things are safe. So what do you do?
Well, as I said, our people are working together. I mean, the challenge I have is the sheriff initiated this a year and a half ago. He was angry about a budget decisions. You know, I came in with a 90 million structural deficit, but my predecessor jumped on me. He cut taxes by 20% and then went to record levels of spending, and our volunteer fire ambulance service went under. So I was hit with a really critical spending crisis, and I asked the sheriff at that time, and all the departments, my departments, and everybody that we fund, we need a timeout here to look at where spending's going. And the sheriff's response a year and a half ago was to attack. Personal attack. It's a personal front, and that's where we've gone since then.
You brought up the issue of spending. We know these cameras cost $1 million. The big question.
So he's going back to a year and a half ago. That's before it even happened with Rachel. So what? You know, it's not. Anyway.
That's been thrown at you is what is the upkeep? How much is it going to cost to keep this going?
Let's be honest here.
I think a question that many are wondering what the answer is.
It was a question on the thing. You know, all of our computer systems, we have to renew the licensing fees and the like. But
is there a number to it though that you know?
Remember now. So the sheriff came out and said that he wanted to increase his presence on the trail, and he asked for $300,000 a year additional overtime for that. So if I look at what, 3 years into that, you've paid for the whole entire camera system, right?
So the upkeep is less than $300,000 a year.
Oh, it's much less than $300,000 a year. Absolutely.
Okay.
So, you can look out at, our cameras, other cameras that we've had in place. It's not been a big cost to upkeep, but you got.
And just the last thing on the cameras on who's able to look at it. It would be the sheriff's department who would have the primary access at that point, right?
No, so look, no, that's not true.
Who would have the primary access?
So we've been very key on that. These are potentially very intrusive on the public privacy. So what we've done is said that the cameras come into our 911 center and they're accessible. We access those cameras in response to an alert or a crime or something.
And so
then we can provide access. Yeah, the emergency center, who actually back up all of our deputies anyway, on all cameras, on everything across the county. It's our 911 folks who are sitting there directing the law enforcement because they're not looking at cameras. They're chasing bad guys. And so our people are backing them up. But
so this is one step that you're hoping will make them safer as we look to the relationship with you and the sheriff to work cohesively. I've asked the sheriff to sit down and to stop the attacks. I've not leveled the attacks. The attacks have been relentless for a year and a half. I've not been the attacker.
The sheriff is determined it's his political attack dogs that he's unleashed. It's really sad. It doesn't help our county. It's not good for the public image. It's not good for public safety. I've asked them repeatedly, why don't you work with us as a team? If you got an issue, give me a call. You got my cell phone. You got my emails.
That one-on-one can happen in the future.
Well, I've been reaching out for a year and a half, and repeatedly it's been nothing but an endless stream of attacks. So I would welcome the depolitization. I would welcome a step back. I welcome an opportunity to act like mature adults and work for the public safety. I cooperate with departments throughout the state and county, and we do very well. And the only exception is Jeff Gaylor. And I really encourage him to step back. Let's start acting like adults and serve the public and quit the attacks.
Executive Casserly, we appreciate hearing your side of the story. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh my God. So I just found that by accident. I sort of wish I hadn't found it, really. Bloody hell. So there you go. Never had it. Did you even
1 year ago, Rachel Morin's body was found.
Did you even mention Rachel's name? So there is another one. I do want to look at the actual, this is about Rachel, really. So sorry, I just sort of fell into that.
A year ago, this time, or a little bit after this.
So yeah, so it's a year since Rachel was lost to the world, and especially to her family, to her children, to her friends, to anyone that knew her. But I think we all feel a loss. It's like that woman said when Patty, Rachel's mum, said to her, "Did you know Rachel?" And she said, "No, but I feel like I know you." And that's how it feels, isn't it, when we get invested in these cases? When we start to follow them. And I feel Rachel's case really strongly, because it has been such a long time. And, when it very first happened, just 2 weeks after it happened, there was the announcement, that they had the DNA from the suspect, and it matched with another crime right over the other side of America. And we really felt as if this person, would be caught quickly, because when you've got DNA, and of course there was a video of him leaving the other apartment where he'd committed a crime over in Los Angeles. So what with the DNA in the video, I remember thinking, oh God, this is going to be, a couple of weeks. This is going to be sorted, if not sooner. And then the fact that it went on for 10 months, many times where it felt like nothing was being done at all, which obviously it was. There was work behind the scenes, but, the police go quiet, don't they? Let me put Rachel's face up again. So, and then it went on, it dragged on, for 10 months before this guy was finally caught. So, I mean, the thing is, he's in, he's waiting for his trial to come up. They've got DNA, so he'd be very unlikely to get off at all, with the DNA and the connection with the other crime, etc. And I think and of course, it turns out that he actually murdered some poor woman in his home country, in El Salvador. And there was a red notice out for him. So I think this is the issue here. It's not so much about illegal, you can't think that all immigrants or even illegal immigrants are murderers or potential murderers, but of course some of them will be. But the ones that are most likely to be are the ones that are on the run. So I think the question is not, is how did he get in when there was this red letter, against his name? He should have pinged up straight away at the border. I think the borders are not being, if you watch my channel, I'm not anti-immigration per se, but borders have to be controlled. You have to be careful who is allowed into your country. Of course you do, but of course we mustn't forget that we also grow our own murderers. It's like we've had this issue in the UK, but the same in America. There are immigrants who have killed people. But of course, also there's lots of good old American boys who have killed people as well, and girls. doesn't mean to say, you know, all immigrants are murderers, or all people who are not immigrants are not murderers. You know, we have to keep a logical, and we have to be reasonable in this, and realise that, yes, as far as Victor is concerned, there's definitely there is an issue there, because how he was, you know, someone that was a murderer in his own country, so he shouldn't have been allowed to cross the border. So that does raise questions to me, not of immigration so much, of border control. I think there's a difference, isn't there? You know, the issue of immigration is one thing, and then the issue of actually controlling the borders is a whole nother thing. And that works both ways, of course, because we mustn't forget that quite often in America, if people commit crimes, they go over the border to Mexico and they find their way to South America and they never get caught. You know, that happens often, not just with foreign people, but with Americans. You know, that's an easy way to run away from something you've done in America, is to cross the border. And then once you've crossed the border into Mexico, you can cross other borders and end up in, you know, anywhere you like, really. So this a border control issue works both ways. You know, it does work both ways, and we have to keep a logical head about it and not get hysterical about things. Poor Rachel. So the thing is, poor Rachel, but poor, I mean, I'm sure Rachel's okay now. You know, I'm sure she'll be, you know, in heaven or wherever we go after we shuffle off this mortal coil. There's no reason to think that Rachel would be going anywhere but a good place. And of course, you know, she'll be missing her children, looking down on her children. And I hope her children can, you know, find a way. Not only her children, you know, because it'll have devastated the whole family. I hope everybody who's been affected by Rachel's murder can find a way to, you know, continue in this life. Oh, and some good news is that I have mentioned before, Rachel's oldest daughter, Faye, is expecting a baby in the fall, in the autumn. So Rachel would be a grandma, you know, which is a shame that she's missing that, but I'm sure she knows all about it wherever she is. And that's some positivity coming into that family, because I had a lot of tragedy, because just before Rachel died, one of her nieces died, a baby died as well. And, you know, you just think, God, how much do some families have to put up with? How much grief do some families have to put up with? But there's some good news coming there. So, yeah, Faye will be having a baby in autumn. And that will bring some light into the world. It's a little girl. And, yeah, that brings some light into that family in the dark days. Because there's dark days still to come, because they've got the trial coming up. Which won't be very nice, obviously. I don't know whether he's going to plead not guilty, because if he pleads not guilty and they have to go through all the details, that won't be very nice. But then even if he pleads guilty, don't really know how that works. Will he have to give the details of what happened? Can you believe anything he says anyway? And unfortunately, he's the only person who knows exactly what happened, because Rachel is no longer with us. Okay, so I'm going to finish on a little tribute video that I made for Rachel. I hope you'll stay on long enough to watch it, and with me you'll offer your prayers for Rachel and for her family. And, you know, we just hope they find a way to get through this. And congratulations to Faye. Soon she'll be a mum. She'll be a mummy, and I'm sure she'll make a good mum, because I think we can gather from the things we know about Rachel, although we didn't know her personally. I think it seems apparent that she was a good mum. So I'm sure Faye will have learnt from that, and she'll draw strength by feeling a mum around her. Okay, so I'm getting emotional now. So I'm going to play the video in a moment, the little tribute video, and please give give your thoughts, your prayers for Rachel and her family. I know not everybody's, I feel bad sometimes when I'm asking people to send prayers, because some people don't pray, some people don't believe in God. That's fine, but you can still offer your best thoughts, can't you? Your best energy, virtual hugs, virtual love. You don't have to be a religious person. And I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Bye-bye.